The PS2 is one of my favorite retro consoles, and run-and-gun games are among my favorite type of video games to play. The PS2 had so many great first and third person shooters, but its run-and-gun pickings are slim. In this episode of the Big Retro Show, I will go over some of them. I've played a lot of Contra in my day, and I'm a big fan of the series, but never did I expect Contra's Shattered Soldier to look so good. Released in 2002 exclusively on the PS2, Contra Shattered Soldier is a 2.5D shoot 'em up that mixes great music and graphics with that classic Contra gameplay. But one of the things this game has that the others don't have is maddening difficulty. Yes, this game is a tough one, more so than my previous favorite Contra game, Contra 3 The Alien Wars on the SNES. But more on that later. The gameplay is similar to Contra 3 The Alien Wars in that you get to switch weapons at the press of a button. There are only 3 weapons that the game allows. There's a standard machine gun, which was my go-to weapon, the flamethrower, and the diver mines. Each weapon fires rapidly, and you can also change them to fire an alternate shot. The game's enemies and backgrounds are drawn beautifully, and the sounds really make you pumped up to get into battle and lay it on the line. Each stage is its own set piece and has quite a bit of different aspects added in, such as stages where you can jump on a motorcycle and other vehicles. The bosses in this game are all really stunning to look at and fight, and I have to say they are downright difficult. I was dying quite a bit, but lucky for me I found an infinite lives cheat code and I was using it. But even still with the cheat code I was dying at least 40 to 50 times per level. It's that damn difficult. The game lets you continue 3 times and starts you out with 2 lives. However, you can do a code to allow you 30 men and more continues. And trust me, you will need them. This game is not for the faint of heart. Difficulty aside, this game is rather enjoyable, and you will be immersed into this game's story, in which you play as Bill and find out that Lance has turned evil, and you must take him out. You can play Contra with a pal if you have one, and the second player takes control of the female character, Lucia. Contra Shattered Soldier is a great game that requires some patience, and one I think you will enjoy on the PS2. In keeping with the Contra theme, let's talk about NeoContra. After playing the excellent Contra Shattered Soldier, my hopes were high for NeoContra and it did not disappoint. This time, the action takes place in a futuristic setting and the game is an overhead 3D run-and-gun. The game story takes place in the future and Bill and Jaguar are up against a group called the NeoContra. In each stage, you take on one of the various boss Contra characters and take on Master Contra, who is a dude that was made from Bill's DNA. You play as either Billy or his sidekick Jaguar. For this playthrough, I played as Jaguar just to spice things up a bit. The game allows you to choose which loadout you want to go into battle with. Each weapon loadout has its advantages and disadvantages, and you'll have a good time using them all. The game's controls are really easy to learn. You can fire your weapon, lock onto a target, and use evade. The game doesn't let you jump, but you don't really need it. The evade comes in handy in this game, and I found myself using it quite a bit. The game also lets you strafe while moving and strafe in place, which comes in handy during your playthrough. One new gameplay mechanic this game introduces is the lock-on feature. Certain enemies require you to lock onto them before you can take them out. The lock-on feature can lock up to several targets at once, and unleashing your attack on them is really fun. The boss fights in this game are epic. I just love the level of detail that the developers use in creating this game. The production values are off the charts. The enemies in this game are also fun to fight, but man oh man, this game is slightly less challenging than the previous game I talked about, but it's still a tough game. So it's probably best to play with a pal or with a cheat code like I did. And no, I don't have any shame whatsoever, because I had to capture footage and I wanted to capture footage that was deeper into this game. The graphics and sounds in this game are both stellar, and add another feather in the cap of the PS2's stellar library. Have you played this game? If so, let me know in the comments.
Due to reconstruction.
Part of the reason why I love doing these episodes is because I have fun playing the games that I might not have played otherwise, and such is the case with Blowout. Released in 2003 on most platforms, Blowout is a Metroidvania shooter that places you in the role of a dude named Dutch, whose mission it is to eradicate aliens who have infested a research facility. The gameplay is familiar to anyone who has ever played a Metroid game, with its own twists. For one, the left stick controls your aim, and you can aim 360 degrees around your character. The L stick also serves to move your character around. It's a combination that would probably best be suited for a twin stick setup, but it is what it is. The game allows you to shoot in just one direction while you're running by clicking the L button. The face buttons allow you to switch weapons and interact with different items needed to make it through the game's 10 levels. Each stage has its own Metroid-style map in which you have to explore, find keys, open barriers, and fight off waves of aliens and traps. You start out with a machine gun, but quickly find other weapons such as a shotgun, nail gun, or a flamethrower. Each weapon requires ammo except for the machine gun, and you will have to blow containers and other items to find them. The containers also contain health power-ups, which is key to your survival. Aside from the health power-ups, you can also find these chambers that replenish your health. Each stage is punctuated by a boss, which get increasingly difficult with each stage. The game is a classic shooter, mixed with Metroid gameplay elements, moody graphics, and amusing dialogue. If you have never played Blowout, I highly recommend you check it out. When talking about console run-and guns, it's pretty hard not to include the Metal Slug games, and with the Metal Slug Anthology, SNK brought that conversation over to the PS2. Unless you have been living under a rock, you know about the Metal Slug series. It was one of the games that first appeared on the Neo Geo and was an instant hit. I actually never played this game in the arcades, but when it first appeared on consoles like the PS2 and Xbox, I came to know it quite well. This anthology comes with Metal Slugs 1 through 6 along with Metal Slug X. Each game has its own charm, with my favorite probably being Metal Slug 3. The gunplay in this game is exquisite. You start out with just a basic gun and some bombs, you get weapon upgrades that decimate the enemy by rescuing these hippie looking POWs. I never liked them, they annoy me for some reason. Part of the Metal Slug series charm is the animation that the developers used. It's colorful and cartoony and makes blowing things up super satisfying. The other thing I like about this run-and-gun series is the ability to climb into different vehicles. That's a great aspect of the gameplay and one that I wish other run-and-guns would have more of. The other cool thing about the gameplay are the enemies and bosses. They are tough and will kill you quite often, but it's so satisfying seeing one of these things blow up. But I don't like every aspect of these games. For example, you can't shoot diagonally, you have to get a heavy machine gun and sort of wave it. The other thing is that the weapons all have ammo, and when you run out, you must obtain another weapon, or suffer using a pea shooter, which is not powerful at all. The other thing about these games that I'm not sure that I like are the ill effects. I'm looking at you, Metal Slug 2, where you get turned into a mummy. Other games in this series have similar effects and it slows the gameplay down. But man oh man, the animations and play mechanics, even when you turn into a mummy, sort of make this forgivable. Sort of. The Metal Slug games are a must-play for any fan of run-and-guns, and if you want them all in one convenient package, look no further than the Metal Slug Anthology on the PS2. It also came out on the Xbox. Now when it comes to video game genres, there's always that one title that is too difficult for its own good. And for run-and-guns on the PS2, that game is Alien Hominid. And I know what you're thinking. How can something so cartoony be so challenging? First of all, this game only allows you a few continues and 5 lives per continue. So that is 15 opportunities to play through this game. The other thing that compounds its difficulty is that it's a one-hit death type game. Your character is this little alien dude who crash lands on Earth and his ship is wrecked. No sooner than you crash land does the FBI take your ship and thus starts your mission. You first start out with a pea shooter but quickly find alien weapons that let you murder humans in fun ways. The weapons range from shotguns to ray guns and other guns. The thing about it though is each weapon has ammo limitations and you won't be lasting too long with any given weapon, given the game's difficulty and its ammo restrictions. I know at least I didn't. Aside from your weapons, you can also jump on enemies and eat their faces, bury deep in the soil and grab them down, and do melee attacks. The enemies in this game are cartoony and blocky, and well, I have to say that they are a lot more fun to watch die than they are actually to fight. The bosses in this game aren't too difficult once you learn their patterns. You can hit them with your default or given weapon, or use this charge blast against them that does a lot of damage. Your little alien dude is also armed with grenades that do quite a bit of damage as well. During certain points of the game, you can jump into different vehicles and run over fools. Other vehicles will let you fire cannon rounds at them. It's good fun. The art style of this game made me think it was a Flash game at first, and as it turns out, I was right because it began its life as one. It was later ported over to the PS2 and to the GameCube to the delight of all run-and-gun enthusiasts. While this wasn't my favorite run-and-gun play, it certainly has its charms. If you have played it, let me know in the comments how you liked it. And that's going to be it for the Big Retro Show. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, make sure you drop a comment, leave a like, and consider subscribing to the Big Retro Show.